Welcome to this video. This is going to be a unique video, not describing any how-tos, not describing any strategies or anything of that nature. I'm going to ask one burning question that many of you tend to have when you are interested in my work or you see my stuff on Instagram or any of my social medias and you feel like it's really different, really unique. Maybe I've already had a call with you and I told you I would send you this video and you've just been curious, like, what this man has or says sounds too good to be true. Now, whether that pisses you off or whether it makes you curious, some part of you is curious to know, like, who am I and what is it that I can do for you? Like, how did I get here? So that's the questions that we're going to answer in this video. It's basically a who am I video. So let me start with this. My name is Tyler. I am from a very small town in Canada. It's like 7,000 people. And my whole life, I just loved people. I just loved people. And I wanted to know when people were hurting the most, and then when people were in the best feelings, I wanted to understand a couple things. If it was that, if the fact that I was able to be in such emotionally distressing places, beyond anxious and scared, right, for my life, or depressed at the fact I didn't want to get out of bed, I didn't want to eat, I didn't want to talk to anybody. Um, Substances when I was like, I was feeling so many things that I wanted to turn to porn, as a teenager kind of thing, or when I wanted to drink my face off, in my early 20s, late teens. I wanted to know, like, if I could get through the worst of times in my life, but other people seem to have a hard time with that, especially when they're in therapy. My question was, how can I help them? What is it that I'm doing differently? But that was just like a bit of a question in the back of my mind growing up. I didn't like pursue that yet, but I was like, huh, that really pains me to see people hurting. It really fucking pains me. But when I feel so amazing, it feels like I'm high. It feels like I'm high on life naturally. So I'm like, I hate it when people are suffering because I've felt that. And I loved seeing people lit up because I felt that too. And I'm like, I want people to have that. I don't want them to have this. And so in that journey, I was like, God, I want to help people so bad. Just, I want to fucking help them. And if this emotion that's coming up right now doesn't scream authenticity, then I don't know what's going to sell you on that. But I really just cared about people. And I think a lot of that had to do with my mom. My mom, whenever I'd get home from school and be stressed and all that stuff, she'd sit me down and be like, Tyler, like, bud, what's going on? And I'm like, I don't want to talk about it. And she'd be like, Tyler. And she'd literally sit me down at the kitchen table and say, bud, I'm here for you. No matter what it is, talk to me. And obviously through like the consoling and like really giving me that comforting space and all that good stuff, she eventually got me to say it. I'd be like crying and then she'd help me through it and wow, I felt so much better. But that was what it was like growing for me. That didn't make sense. That's what it was like for me growing up. Not day after day, but certainly time and time and time after time. And so I was getting pretty good at emotional regulation just because of that. But here's where it gets more interesting for you. That was the slightest background on me as a kid. But what starts to matter more to you is I got to high school and there's a couple things that I noticed. Number one was that I started to have a gift, if you want to call it that, like a talent, a skill that came natural to me. Probably because of my mom, if I'm actually looking back at it now. I had this gift or talent or skill that seemed to come naturally to me to help people through their shit. It didn't matter if they wanted to get out of trouble with the teacher at school. It didn't matter if they wanted to get out of trouble with their parents. It didn't matter if it was one of my guy friends that was dating two girls and didn't want them to find out. It didn't matter if it was someone who wanted to approach somebody and say hello. It didn't matter if they were upset. It didn't matter if they were crying. It didn't matter if they were pissed off. It didn't matter if they were depressed. I seemed to be able to have this skill where I could naturally, without even knowing what I'm doing, I could bring them from the state that they're in to where they wanted to be and do it like really quickly. I had no idea what I was doing, but like I said, because my mom did that with me, that's probably where I had this emotional intelligence, if you will, to just do it and unconsciously. Um, Sneak peek, skip ahead 10, 15, 20 years. I'm now doing this for a living. But with all of that, the second thing I noticed in high school was that everybody and their mother seemed to have some sort of diagnosis. depressive disorder, anxiety disorder, bipolar disorder. Um, those were the main three that I really heard growing up when I was in high school. All of the letters of the alphabet weren't quite there yet. I went to high school between 2009 and 2012. So, and in a small town, that's all we had. We didn't have like the derealization and borderline personality disorder, narcissistic. We didn't have all the different labels. It was basically anxiety disorder, depressive disorder, and like bipolar. Schizophrenic, I heard like a couple times, but we called it skits. Like when we were in elementary school, we'd be like, "Oh, you fucking skits," because we were being assholes. Kids would be kids. So I saw that everybody seemed to have some sort of term assigned to them, if you will, associated to them. And it was annoying me, but I didn't think anything of it. I was like, okay. Here's what was the kicker. I would ask my friends, I would ask people in the school, hey, like, what are you doing for that? What are you doing to try to get into a better, happy place? And two things I noticed that really started my journey of I need to figure out something. I need to get into a place where I'm helping people through this in a real way, which I will define for you what real is to me in a moment. Two things that noticed that pissed me off. Number one is they would say, "Oh yeah, I've been in therapy for a while." And I'd say, "Oh great, like how long have you been in therapy?" They'd say, "About 3 years, about 5 years, about 10 years since I was a kid. Oh, and I'm on medication too." I was like, "Wait a second, but if you and I if our car was broken down and we went to a mechanic, they would tell us it'll take, an hour, it'll take a couple days, and then you can come pick it up and it's good as new. There might be a big price tag attached to it, but the point of the matter is the problem's solved and you're back to normal, like living your day as if it never happened." That was the first that pissed me off. I'm like, what do you mean 3 fucking years? And I probably did actually say it like that to myself in high school or to them too. Because it really pissed me off. Like, what do you mean? Anyway, that's the first thing. The second thing to me was um, they were saying it to me in a very happy state. What I mean by that is not a fake of like, yeah, I'm going to a therapist because I'm really depressed. Wasn't like this. Instagram, it wasn't like this. "Yeah, I'm really depressed, so I'm seeing a therapist." Where you can tell something is going on behind that. It was like this. Yeah, I went to a therapist and I was told I have depressive disorder, so I'm on these medications. And then they would go back to like having a good time, whatever the hell they're doing with their friends. What didn't stand out to me right was that they were clearly in a great emotional place, clearly in a great headspace, but they regurgitated what their therapist had told them about this label and this disease, if you will, this illness, if you will, that they had. Didn't make any fucking sense to me. It did not make any sense. Those two things pissed me off. And so I started to go on this journey of like, okay, my belief before any of the stuff that I do now professionally was if people just like myself could be in a crappy place and come out of it, because I'd been there many times in my life, if that is possible for people, why are they spending so much time in therapy and they have these labels associated to them? What is going on with that? That was my big question. And my driving belief behind this was change happens in a moment. It doesn't take time. Anytime I'd ever made a change in my life, my emotional state, my physical state, my the state of my relationships, my financial state, any kind of like state of being that some part of my life was in, it had always changed in a moment. That was my not only my belief, that had been my experience. Like when something shifts in my mind, when a belief shifted in my mind about something, it's like, oh, okay, that makes sense. And I felt better immediately. Instagram, tell me if you can relate to that. You think your friend said something, you think your friend did something to you, and you're so angry about it. So angry, so hurt about it. And then one day, one moment, you realize that it's not true. Like you actually start and you believe it. You're like, you're so pissed, and then, oh, oh fuck, okay, they didn't say that. Well, what the fuck? I thought they did. They didn't? well, fuck. Now I feel a bit stupid. Okay, well, what the fuck is the truth then? What happened? And suddenly, in that moment, when you have that new real shift, you're like, all right, feeling better. Now what's the truth? What the fuck? Right? There's a moment where that had happened for me every single time. And so I was like, all right, here's the thing. I have this skill. I love helping people. I love seeing that light in their eyes when they go from like this listening to like the where their brain clicks. So I wanted to go to school to be a therapist. Now, that was basically my upbringing and my story behind how I got here. Now, let's talk about the actual what got me to this moment. I decided at some point in high school I wanted to be a therapist. Um, and so after high school, I started looking into a bunch of I did like not a victory lap, what do you call it? Like I took a year or two off to like figure out what it is that I wanted to do. And I had decided I wanted to be a therapist, but the thing about it was, anytime I went on some kind of school to, Harvard or this or that, just any kind of school to check out their psychology program, none of it stood out to me because the description would be something like, semester one or year one or something like that. It was like, um, understanding brain chemistry, and then another one would be like how to diagnose and treat people with certain disorders and illnesses. Another one was like coping strategies 101 or something like that. I don't remember. This is a long time ago. It was like 15 years ago. And I was like, this isn't really what I imagined doing. I started to imagine myself sitting down in a therapist's office with a clipboard, so to speak, like, a thing, and with like glasses like this, with a clipboard, my legs crossed, right? You see my ring light, my glasses, so I'm going to take those off. But with my glasses on, my legs crossed, somebody sitting across from me, and me going that like this. So tell me more about that. How do you feel about that? Okay, okay. So what I'm hearing is XYZ, correct? Okay. And so tell me about the relationship with your father. And then the next week being like, so, how was your week? That's what you felt. Okay, well, how do you feel about? And that's what I started to imagine myself doing, and I was like, no, I don't want that. What I imagined in my head was me doing something between what seemed like motivational speaking and therapy, what I believe therapy would actually be like. And so the motivation was where there'd be like this energy and excitement and like these breakthrough moments and like feeling incredible in your body, right? The motivation side. But the therapy side is where actually people get through their fucking problems and like life is never the same again. And they can keep going and going in their momentum. Now, whether it's continuous or just one-time session, it didn't matter. I wanted that to be the essence of the work together with people. And so this is what happened. My friend, I am not a therapist. I am not a psychologist. I am not a doctor. I'm not a medical doctor. I'm not a counselor. I am a coach. That has a very bad rep in this industry. However, before I go into where I learned how I got here specifically, let me tell you this. If you go to my Instagram and you check out my highlights, you're going to see results. A lot of results, meaning testimonials, reviews, if you will, of a lot of my clients. You will see that whether it be suicidal thoughts, addictions, panic attacks, anxiety attacks, traumas, lifelong trauma from abuse, the war, childhood trauma, neglect, phobias, lifelong phobias, weird phobias like balloons or elevators or anything you can imagine, marriages, businesses, anything that was a major, major, major problem in somebody's life, you're going to see on these testimonials that it took no more than between 5 minutes and 6, 7 weeks. And there's a reason for that. I'm very different than most therapists, psychologists, coaches, and that whole field. Not that I have a chip on my shoulder, but it's that I know what I'm doing when it comes to helping you go from the current emotional state you're in to bringing you to a better emotional state of, let's say, freedom or feeling empowered or whatever it might be, feeling confident in yourself, happy in yourself, and being able to sustain that. What I mean by sustain that is not from you're going from feeling anxious and depressed, as an example, to feeling good, and then you leave the session with me and you regress and go right back. What I mean by sustained feeling's good, or whatever good you want to call that, is going from this down, undesired state of emotion that you're in to feeling incredible within yourself, and then having you maintain that state, that emotional state of energy and emotion through your life. Now, that doesn't mean, for the record, you're never going to have another emotion again. That's not what that means. I just mean this becomes your center of gravity. It becomes what I call your emotional home, where that's where you are, say, 60 to 80% of the time. And then the other 20 to 40% of your time, you're not like down like this, riddled with anxiety or depression or distracting yourself. But the other 40 to 20 to 40%, you're just feeling kind of neutral. Like you're feeling fine. Kind of like I am right now. I'm not feeling great. I'm not feeling any down at all. It's a good day, right? Just chilling. That's your 20 to 40%. The other 60, you're feeling like you're on top of the fucking world, ready to take life by the balls, if you will, right? Take it by the horns, get your stuff done. I can bring you from this to this state to this state and then keep it sustained, but it doesn't take months. It doesn't take weeks. It goes from one moment to the other this fast, and then that will be your new center of gravity. Now, let's talk about how I actually began to learn this and kind of what it developed into and how we got here for you watching this video. Now, by the way, let me just say something. If you're watching this because you're like, well, Tyler, what are you talking about? I just have panic attacks. I just have these riddling symptoms. No, you don't. You feel anxious a lot of the time, but you also feel very, very frustrated. When you're done feeling frustrated, you feel very depressed and down on yourself, and you beat yourself up internally. You eventually distract yourself with something. Doesn't matter if it's social media or pornography. It doesn't matter if it's alcohol or a prescription medication or Netflix or working out or your business or your children. You do something to distract yourself. Anything. Anything at all. And then eventually when you're done with the distraction, you come back and what do you go into? You feel anxious and panicky, and then you feel frustrated, depressed, and you just go back and forth and back and forth. Now, that's what's really going on. And as a result, by the way, you feel all these symptoms and sensations in your body, these intrusive thoughts. All of that is a result of your emotions going back and forth in your body and mind. With that being said, this video is for you. Okay? It is for you. Because I mentioned, suicide and anxiety, or sorry, and addictions and marriages and all that, you might have thought this isn't quite for me. I promise you, it is all related. 100% related. I'll make another video about how specifically another time, but I want to talk about just how I got here. That's what this video is about. So going into that is the pattern you're in. Now, how did I actually get here to figure all this out? Because, like I told you, I was on all these sites looking up like what the schooling would be like, and nothing caught my attention at all. I was like, I can't see myself doing this for the rest of my life. So I thought, I'm just going to keep working and I'm going to keep it in my mind that I do want to help people and I want to make them feel incredible. I want them to rip through their fucking problems like it's nothing, like it's a sheet of paper. Shh. And on the other side of that, they feel incredible, but not just a facade of like a pump up. I want them to feel like not only is their problem able to rip through like a piece of paper, shh, done, but I also, on the other side of that, I want them to feel like 100% capable of figuring out the problem and being realistic. Okay, you're getting a divorce. You just went through a panic attack. Your kids are in some kind of trouble at school. You're in a financial crisis. Your business is going down. You don't know what to do with this one decision with your partner. You don't know what to do with your career shift. Like you're having real problems. I want you to be in this empowered state where you're looking at it with realistic point of view and you're going, okay, here's what I can do. Here's another option. Here's another option. Here's what we're going to do, and you feel empowered about handling the problem in front of you in a very realistic way. That's what I want for my clients, for you. And that's what I promise all of my clients. So with that being said, I kept it in the back of my mind. That's what I wanted to do with people. So as I was working normal jobs, Tim Hortons in Canada, construction, all those different things, this is where your answer really gets here of how did I learn all this specifically. I was in construction and I was at the back of like this construction house where my boss had told me and the other guy I was working with, he's like, hey, wait behind this wall, or wait behind this house. We need to wait for the parts to come in, but it doesn't look really good if two of my employees are just sitting there in the middle of the street doing nothing. So I was like, yeah, that's fair. So he's like, just go chill behind the house that's being built, and just I'll text you guys when you can come back out and start helping. I said, great. I'm back there, and this guy is being a fucking Debbie Downer from my point of view. He's like, "You life sucks, blah 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 blah." And it's funny to look back at it now, but this man was the tipping point in my life, and I wish I remembered his name because I want to go back and thank him. He does not know, he cannot possibly know the amount of lives he has helped me to change through this one pivotal moment in my life. Here's what happened. He's being Debbie Downer. The life sucks. And I was like, dude, what are you talking about? Look at your construction boots right now. And he did. And I said, somebody's dream was to solve the problem of people probably having their fucking feet smashed on construction sites. Somebody's dream and vision was to help us out. And they made these boots and they sold them worldwide. They brought their dream into a reality. That was a dream. That was a vision somebody had, and they brought it to life. I said, look at the vest. You have these flashing like lights on you. Not flashing lights, but like what do you call it? Reflective lights. I said that reflective vest I guarantee is because somebody was like, holy shit, we gotta solve this problem of all these guys getting hurt because nobody on the road can see them. We gotta solve that. The reflective vest was born. I said, look at the fence, look at the windows, look at the trees, look at the, and I just started pointing everything out because by the way, this is how I see life. I've always seen life like this my whole life. This microphone that I'm doing this podcast or this YouTube video on, that was a dream. The what do you call it? The ring light was some creators were like, we need to solve this problem of this dark, shitty room. The tripod that my phone is recording this on live stream, somebody's dream. All of this was somebody saying, I have an idea to solve a problem. I want to bring this vision into reality. And so I was bringing him through this whole talk, and I meant it though. It wasn't just to pump him up. I was just sick of hearing him fucking bitch about his problems. And he cut me off in the middle of it. He's like, dude, you're so right. Like, yeah, this and this is, oh my god, it's amazing, blah, blah, blah. And then he paused, and this is where my life changed forever. He paused and he goes, dude, do you know who you remind me of? And I was like, I don't have a clue, but who? I'm very curious to know who I remind people of so I can look them up and be like, oh, that's how people see me. Interesting. And I hope you can still hear me. There's a really loud machine outside my window, like someone cutting the grass. He looks at me and he goes, you know who you remind me of? I'm like, no, who? He says, Tony Robbins. He's like, have you heard of him? And I was like, no, never heard, no idea who it is. And I was like, I don't really care to look him up. But then he goes like this. He's like, you know what? He has this Netflix documentary. He's like, I want you to go home tonight and watch it. It's called I Am Not Your Guru. And I'm like, okay, cool. So I took out my phone, wrote it down, whatever. And I go home and I was like, hey, mom. I was living with my mom at the time. This was like 10 years back. And I was like, Mom, somebody on my job site today told me I reminded them of this guy. Like, do you want to watch the movie with me? It's gonna be cool to see who, your son is being reminded, or who your son is reminding people of out there. She's like, yeah, let's figure this out. So we put it on, and the opening scene is this fucking tall man with a raspy voice doing a suicide intervention. I didn't know that's what it was at the time. I was like, there's some sort of talk going on here. The opening scene is him going like this. Why are you suicidal? And the guy goes into a bit of his story and he makes the guy laugh a few times. And I'm not going to go through the whole movie, but here's my point. The whole movie is this riveting movie of this man doing interventions, doing these sessions with people that are like really, really quick. It doesn't matter if they're suicidal, had anxiety attacks, were depressed, addictions, marital problems. They stood up. He didn't know a thing about them. Um, they stood up, and within an hour and a half, the documentary shortens them down to like 3 minutes. But I found out later they're about an hour, hour and a half. So in an hour and a half, this person's problem is not only completely handled, like emotionally completely handled 100%, but he did follow-up interviews with them about 2, 3 years later each. Every single one he did an intervention with, none of them have went back. And so I went, who the fuck is this man? Because like I said earlier in this YouTube video, I wanted to know. I wanted a career where I'm like half motivation and actually getting results like therapy. I wanted like the hybrid of that, so to speak. And this man was the fucking definition. And so I was like, I need to know who this is. I need to see if he can train people. I'm going to make long story short for the sake of time. I took his training, and he had a partner named Dr. Chloe Madanis. She is the founder of Strategic Family Therapy. This woman has helped hundreds of thousands of people out of mental institutions where they have been told they're crazy, they're bipolar, they're schizophrenic, they're going to be on medications forever, they're a lost cause, they're just medically damaged, like they're done. And in 3 sessions, she would have them back to full life, feeling great. And I noticed Tony Robbins was doing the same, and I was like, interesting. Whatever they're doing, I want to learn what the psychology and the strategies are behind that and why those things work. Then I was like, okay, these people are incredible. What is like the lineage of their learnings? And found out none of it was traditional psychotherapy, because the psychotherapy that you go to, like from the therapists you learn from, are from schools that aren't designed to help you have lasting relief from these problems and symptoms. That's not what they're designed to do. That is for a later talk. Back to my point. So I'm learning about who these people learned from, and it turns out one of their names is Dr. Richard Bandler, the co-founder of Neurolinguistic Programming. Now, this you can't see YouTube, but Instagram Live can. This little certificate-looking thing that's in my windowsill over here is one of my many licenses and certifications, but for neurohypnotic repatterning. Now, I have lots of license and lots of certifications. I don't like to present them to you simply because of this. I want you to experience lasting change for yourself, and I don't want you to feel like somebody needs to have some sort of certification or doctorate, so to speak, behind their name to get your results. Most, not all, but most people who have a license certification or anything like that went to school for 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years. They're not doing anything that's going to get you help. So the real reason I don't show you guys these things is because I don't want to be associated with people who can't do anything for you. I want you to have real tangible results. And if that means you watch all my YouTube videos, you watch all my live streams, you watch all my free content on my Instagram, and you get little tangible real things that are very practical and help you feel better, have that say more about me than anything else. I don't want you Instagram. I don't want you to look at the certification. Um, I will show you YouTube just for a second. It's that one right there. I don't want you to look at that and be like, oh, he can help me. Because I don't want you to think that someone who has a title or has been through a training can do their job. There's lots of people who have training, they can't do their job. I want you to look at the testimonials. I want you to look at what people in your position have said, and notice how they all start with a couple things. One, I was so skeptical. Tyler claimed he could just change me, and we could feel lasting relief in a moment. I didn't believe it. It seemed too good to be true. Now look where they are. So I learned these tools, strategies to make sure that you had lasting relief. I will give you a really quick rundown of a bunch of things that I am trained in, just so you have an idea. And then we're going to end this video. And if you want, reach out to me, DM me the word relief, and I will show you how to tailor this to yourself so you get what you want out of this life, including just feel better as a good start. One of them is neurolinguistic programming. Another one is neuroassociative conditioning. Another one is neurohypnotic repatterning. Another one is human needs psychology. Another one is internal family systems. Another one is strategic family therapy. Another one is brief therapy. I could probably go on and on for a while. I have about 20 of them, but they're not going to really mean a lot to you, if I'm being honest. The reason that you want them is so that you have some certainty that I've been through enough extensive training that I understand you and I can help you. I get that. I respect that. But I want you to know, number one, I've got all of them. Number two, there's very little value in most of them, but there's a common theme in all of them that allows you to have that lasting change. I will explain that on another video. I'm late for my call. Lastly, if you want my help, reach out to me with the word relief either in the comments down below, or book a free call in the description down below of this YouTube video, or come to my Instagram at tyler.charlebois. Check out my content, see if it resonates with you at all whatsoever, and if it does, DM me the word relief and see if I can help you. And if it doesn't resonate with you, well, I hope this has been an interesting video for you to make fun of, or for you to be like, oh, cool, someone out there can help maybe. Either way, do with it what you will. I hope to see you soon. I hope you have the most amazing day, and I hope to be able to serve you soon.